First of all, of course, this report from TASS news agency about direct talks between Moscow and Kiev that are scheduled in Istanbul for today. Originally, obviously, these talks had to take place yesterday. Russian delegation arrived in Istanbul and was ready for negotiations from early morning, and they waited basically whole day, but Ukrainian delegation did not arrive there. What happened is that Zelensky went to Turkey, and basically straight after he left the plane, he started mocking Russian delegation, making some insane statements that this delegation that Russia sent is not represented by as high-ranking officials as Zelensky would like, if anybody cares about Zelensky's opinions, right? He wanted the show, right? Zelensky wanted the show, but Russia was interested in real talks, real negotiations, real de-escalation, and that's why Russia sent their specialists, experts in negotiations, under leadership of Medinsky, who was leading Russian negotiating team in 2022 also. And yesterday, dear friends, I did share information about Russian team, quite a detailed information, right? And these are all experts, by the way, in negotiations, and they were very serious about it. But yet again, Zelensky arrived somewhere in the middle of the day, made some crazy statements. Then he went to meet with Erdogan, and after that meeting, he still took some time, by the way, several hours at least, before finally he said that Ukrainian delegation will arrive in Turkey. And that delegation will be led by so-called defense minister of this so-called country, Ukraine, Umerov. And basically Russian delegation was still hoping that negotiations might start yesterday, even if at late time, but it did not. And now hopes are that today, this morning, negotiations will begin. We will see, dear friends, but attitude of Zelensky, attitude of his European backers clearly demonstrates that globalist control regimes in Europe, first of all, UK, France, Germany, and a number of others, they are not interested in de-escalation. They are interested in a 30-day ceasefire so that Kyiv regime, their proxy and their proxy forces will have some break so that they will reorganize this proxy and then reignite conflict again. That's what their goal is, and Zelensky clearly demonstrated this with his absolutely clownish attitude yesterday. But we will see what is going to happen today. Of course, I will report about it during the day. But when it comes to Russian delegation, by the way, Russia is absolutely ready for serious, meaningful talks. We have statements from head of Russian delegation, Medinsky, for example, that Russia is ready for possible compromises even. So Moscow is ready for dialogue as well as potential compromises in direct negotiations with Kiev. Russian presidential aide Vladimir Medinsky has stated Medinsky is leading Moscow's delegation for planned peace talks in Istanbul. Russia and Ukraine have both sent their delegations to Turkey after Russian President Vladimir Putin last week offered to resume direct dialogue to find a lasting settlement to Ukrainian conflict. We have quote from Medinsky here: "We are ready for discussion and the resumption of the Istanbul talks. We are ready for possible compromises," Medinsky told journalists in Istanbul while still waiting for the talks to commence. And as I said, dear friends, Russian delegation was waiting whole day yesterday, and Kiev regime, delegation of Kiev regime did not arrive for these talks. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if Kiev regime will and its European backers will come up with some additional destructive plans to eventually either walk away from negotiations or to make it, yet again, try at least to make out of it a show, sort of. And that means obviously non-meaningful talks and no results, which is going to be unfortunate, obviously, but yet again, it is so clear, isn't it, that globalist puppet regimes in Europe, UK, France, Germany, and others, and their proxies in Kiev are not interested in long-lasting peace. It's just too obvious. Same time, dear friends, yesterday, President of US and also head of State Department made comments on this potential talks that might take place in Istanbul, hopefully today. And for example, President of US Donald Trump stated that he thinks until he will meet with the Russian president, hardly any progress will be made on the topic of Ukrainian crisis. Maybe because clearly it is just too clear that globalists and European powers are not interested in the escalation. And Trump knows this, and his team knows this perfectly well, isn't it? And Rubio also went to say somewhat similar stuff. Meeting between US and Russian presidents Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin is their only chance for Ukrainian settlement, but the date and the place of such a contact have not yet been determined. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said in an interview with the Fox News. And after these statements, one may assume that administration of US president and the administration of Russian president will be in contact, and they will probably try to arrange a direct meeting between Trump and Putin, although before they will definitely wait to see how this Istanbul talks will gonna go, if there will be any talks at all, right? Russian delegation is there since yesterday morning, and they're ready for meaningful practical talks and their decisions, but same cannot be said about Kiev regime. Meanwhile, dear friends, Foreign Minister of Russian Federation Sergey Lavrov also commented on the topic of Istanbul negotiations, and let's go through this news that RIA Novosti is reporting, and I give you some key points from statements of Russian foreign minister. So Western countries are getting into trouble and continue to develop plans to send troops to Ukraine despite repeated warnings from Moscow. Foreign Minister Sergey Lavrov said at the meeting of their diplomatic club yesterday, and he meant obviously this so-called coalition of willing that was created by a number of European NATO members, UK, France, Germany, Poland, a few others, and their constant statements that they're gonna send their troops into Kiev controlled territory and so on. And well, Russian side time after time after time is very consistent and direct that deployment of NATO troops into Kiev controlled territory will be seen by Russia as direct involvement of these countries in this proxy war, and appropriate measures will be taken, which means that these NATO troops will be designated as combatants, and Russian troops will neutralize them. But let's go through some key points that Russian foreign minister also made. The events currently unfolding in Istanbul are intriguing. No one doubts that the negotiations around Ukraine will be difficult. The West does not hide the fact that a ceasefire is necessary to prepare for them, by the way, to prepare Kiev to continue military operation, which is absolutely true, by the way. Everyone understands that European states are prioritizing this topic of 30-day ceasefire only because they want to give some break to their proxies in Kiev, and to give some break to Kiev's forces, right? To arm them, to send more weapons, more munition, to reorganize them, give some break, literally break, by the way, because Kiev regime's forces on many sectors of the front line are on the verge of collapse, and they desperately need a break, simple break. So Lavrov definitely has a point here that this whole activity of the European NATO member states is not about peace, but about gaining some time to rearm, reorganize their proxies, and then to resume hostilities. This is 100% true. Lavrov also stated that about Zelensky's demands regarding Putin's presence in Istanbul, Zelensky is a pathetic person. That was Lavrov's comment on that, and I think this comment also included this pathetic statement of Zelensky about level of Russian delegation. Let's continue with the statements of Lavrov, and after saying that Zelensky is a pathetic person, he also made follow-up statement that diplomacy is not about guessing, but about doing. And to do, you have to do it professionally. And professionally means not shouting into the microphone like Zelensky, demanding that Putin personally come here to me. But, one should do real things, Lavrov stated, and who would disagree with him, by the way? I mean, Zelensky wanted to put out show, and he tried. And he once again demonstrated how disgraceful he is, really. Anyways, there are other key statements of Lavrov, dear friends. There is a lot of evidence that Western capitals do not want peace in Ukraine, and they are discussing among themselves that they cannot stop the mobilization of Europe against Russia. Also true. Western curators must insist on Kiev's return to normalcy and repeal of laws that contradict the Ukrainian constitution, stated Lavrov. He also went to say that what the regime of Zelensky is doing in relations to everything Russian in Ukraine is a pure Nazism. A UN secretariat has been privatized by the West and NATO, so Russia advocates for its reform. And Lavrov also stated that US President Donald Trump and his administration has returned to normalcy, and politicians and diplomats are obliged to talk. Okay, maybe Lavrov was too diplomatic there. I'm not quite sure yet that US administration get back to normality and are prioritizing now through diplomacy. I'm not even sure that in the US State Department you might find even one professional diplomat. And I don't think I'm exaggerating anything at this point. But anyways, Trump's administration is at least talking about the escalation, right? And is in contact with the Russian side, while previous administration was a total disaster for US, first of all, and US citizens, and also for US reputation on the world stage. So some improvement there for sure with the arrival of Trump in the White House, but there is a long way to go, really, before the world will see US as a country that truly has returned to normalcy and diplomacy. But anyways, dear friends, this is the key statements of Lavrov. As I already said in the beginning, there are expectations that today finally direct talks between delegations of Russia and Ukraine will begin, although who knows? Lavrov himself stated that European capitals are not interested in sustained peace, in long-term peace. They want a temporary break for their proxies in Kiev, and then to reignite conflict. So therefore, it is a risk, obviously, it is a possibility that globalist control regimes in Europe and their proxies in in Kiev will try to derail these talks, and nothing serious will come out of it. Such a risk is still there, unfortunately. But anyways, whatever reports I'm gonna see in Russian media about this Istanbul negotiations, of course I will share additional information on my Telegram, Twitter X page, and also during the next updates. Dear friends, if you like my work, please help me to maintain and save this independent media project. You can assist through several ways. You can donate through PayPal or Boosty platforms. You can subscribe to my page on Patreon, or you can support with crypto. All the links are on this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. Many thanks to everyone who already helped.